It'd be funny if our one listener was just my mom.
Yeah.
she somehow found out. Yeah. Hi, Mom. Thank you. Love you.
Or your one listener is the creeps that gets on
now
Roblox.
you're talking. Yeah, I was like, now your mom's gonna get my bath water in on a fucking used T-shirt.
She wants it. She wants it. She's told me.
Don't drink it, Mom.
Every Christmas, she's like, when is Solon gonna, pony up? We have a guest today. Our first guest of period. It's probably our last and only guest because we're going to get pulled off the air.
Nobody else wants to do it.
Yeah, we're going to get pulled off the air for sacrilegious content.
Right.
Our guest is Freddy Medellin. Everyone give a hand to Freddy Medellin. Is it Medellin?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Medellin? How do you pronounce it?
Medellin.
Okay.
Some people say Medellin.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that like a Spanish pronunciation?
It's like in Colombia they say Medellin.
Is it Colombian?
Really?
It's Spaniard, but the Colombians,
who gives a fuck what those Colombians think? Shut
Fuck
up.
those guys.
Who asked you? What are you doing here in my country? Saying shit wrong.
Screw those people. Yeah. It just depends.
Freddy is our mixed martial arts coach that we trained with once upon a time. Mixed martial arts coach. He has a YouTube channel where he will still teach you mixed martial arts, predominantly Dutch style kickboxing, which is badass. Real estate agent. And then my dad says, do you have a third job? Because my dad says you're also a butt pirate. I'm just kidding.
I love that.
Yeah. But Freddie, I know we've talked about it a little before in like casual conversation, but you got into mixed martial arts when? Like you got into kickboxing when?
1994. So,
oh, wow, man.
Yeah, it'll be 30 years in like a month or so.
How old are you?
Man.
17.
And you used to be a baseball player, right?
Yeah, I played baseball for 24 years.
What happened? Because I knew you were like, you could have gone college sports, right? Like you could have played.
I think so. I mean, I think I would have. I was good enough to do that.
Right.
What level of college, I don't know, but I was good enough to go. I hurt my arm when I was 17, when I was my junior year.
No shit, what happened?
High school. Yeah. I don't know. I pitched a game in Robstown, and the next morning I woke up and my arm was like black and blue, my shoulder.
What? From pitching?
Yeah.
You were throwing heat.
Yeah, I was throwing really hard. Back then.
So you were a pitcher.
Yeah.
I was
gonna say, I think you told me about this once.
That's badass. I see. Honestly, I didn't know you were a pitcher. I knew you played. I knew you had like a badass swing, of course, because everyone bats. Everyone bats in baseball, right?
Pretty much.
The pitcher will bat, right? Like if
sometimes at my high school, the pitchers didn't bat.
Is it just to like
I was
save
gonna
your
say, is there
energy?
a particular reason for it?
It's just old because we were able to get a DH, so they get another batter.
Oh, definitely.
And then as far as our high school was, our coach, all the pitchers, we spent our time pitching.
Okay, yeah.
Like
they don't want you to do anything else.
Yeah, we weren't doing anything else. So
but that's smart.
What sucked though was I was a good hitter growing up.
Oh, okay.
So then whenever I became a pitcher in high school, my junior and senior year, hitting was out.
Did they ever do the radar test on your pitches?
So they didn't. There was a guy at our practice one time doing the radar.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And I never went up to him and asked him afterwards, like,
what you
he was
were
there
throwing?
for his kid.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
But I did see him like gunning everybody.
Yeah.
So I never went up after. I think I just forgot. Like it just
slipped your mind.
I mean, you're doing other stuff. And
You
then
broke his machine. He was
by the end of
pissed.
practice, you're driving home, and I was like, oh man, I didn't ask or whatever. But a friend of mine, I think he was hitting like 88, 89. And he used to tell me all the time, he's like, dude, you throw way harder than I do.
Damn. So you had to be at least in the 90s. At least.
I think I was throwing at least.
Holy shit,
low 90s,
dude.
like low 90s.
Is there like a standard of like, do you know anything about, say, if you want to go play college and you're a pitcher, is there something that they look for? Like, you have to throw this fast, otherwise we don't even come look at you.
Kinda. I'm not an expert anymore because I think things have changed, right? This was the 90s. I'm a lot older, so. In the 90s, in high school, we used to always talk about it. We would say that lefties can get away with throwing at a lower velocity because lefties already have like this natural curtail on their pitch and things like that. It's just awkward.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So they can get away with throwing a lower velocity, and then righties you have to throw a lot harder. So back then we used to always think. Now this is us as teenage players. I guess watching the pros, we used to always be like, I guess you put your you start calculating things by watching pitchers, and you're like, well, lefties are always like, I don't know, throwing 90, 92. They're not throwing that hard, you know.
Right.
But all the righties were always throwing like 95, 96, so, 94. And we would always think like, well, you have to throw at least 94, 95 to be a right-handed pitcher. That's not necessarily true, I don't think. I think that's just how we used to think about it. So with that said, you also have to understand like the internet back then was in its infancy, right? It's like hardly anything this was like 94.
Yeah, there wasn't like much
video. It wasn't like now, right?
Educational.
So we're just like going off of what we
and
perceive.
The coaches.
Well, the coaches didn't even talk to us about this. This is just us talking to each other.
Really?
Players. We would always be like, oh yeah, you got to do this, you got to do that, right? So in my mind, I was thinking like, oh well, I'm on the right track, right? Like I'm throwing really hard, like I'm doing well. But I think that as I got older, ball placement was more important. I think control
of how you held it in your hand when you release it.
The actual pitch, like where you can place
where
the
he's
pitch,
catching it.
Okay.
Hitting the outside corner, hitting the inside
lines,
corner. I think that was more important because when I hurt my shoulder my junior year, I still pitched my senior year, although I knew that there was no chance of me going to college. Like I went to a specialist when I got hurt, and he straight up told me. To this day, I think like you shouldn't ever tell a kid this, but he straight up told me he's like, you'll never throw as hard as you did. Whenever he said that,
it mentally blocked you, right?
I didn't even go to rehab or anything. I was supposed to go to rehab.
You're like, what's the point?
Yeah, I was just like, oh
so
well.
You just fucking
have you ever heard
dream right there and then?
Right.
Have you ever heard like those stories of people who like get told to, like whether it's fighters or athletes, and something like that happens to them, and the doctor tells them that, and they go like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
I'll show you, and then like they're like the best in whatever they're doing.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And the thing is, I think I was a tough kid and I loved baseball. And I think that when you're 17 and he was the specialist for the Barracudas. Before we had the Hooks, we had the Corpus Christi Barracudas.
Right.
So my dad took me to him, and you're listening to this guy that works with the minor league baseball team, and you just think that everything he says is
Godsend.
Right.
Yeah, he's a priest. So it's like you're the word of God.
Right. So he said it, and I was just, and I never told my dad, but in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to rehab.
But can you like when you're a pitcher, can you teach a kid to throw fast, or is it like half of it an innate ability,
dude,
and then you nurture it?
So I think now, again, I grew up in a different time, right? So I started playing baseball in the early 80s.
So when you were like in...
This was like not the way it is now. Like kids now, they have, here in Corpus, I think we have ex-pro ball players like having, they own batting cages and stuff. They're teaching kids how to hit, and they have like
so
pitching.
These kids are being introduced a lot earlier, your
to,
skill level is...
Right. And now I've seen guys at least on social media, where they go to these specialists and they learn how to pitch, and they go from throwing 85 to throwing like 92 in like a year or whatever. I don't know. Damn. Because they're learning the proper body mechanics, and they're using all these different. Right. They're learning the science behind it. When I was a kid, it's like you either threw hard or you didn't.
Oh,
you know
okay. So it was just an ex high school student that's a coach, and he's now teaching like.
Dude, nobody knew the science behind throwing. It was growing up. I was one of those kids that always threw hard. And I remember the coaches always making a big deal about it, because I think back then we just thought like it's just a natural thing. Yeah. It was like a gift. Like,
you have it or you don't. You're a pitcher.
You either throw hard or you don't.
That does make a lot of sense, because I guess that would pertain to everything, because now you have kids who are 6 years old playing Beethoven and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like,
dude.
I throw like a weenie, dude. I throw like total dog weenies.
I do too now. It's really funny. On Easter we were out at the lake, and my cousin had a football, and I used to throw a football really great.
The bullets,
and they're throwing it around, yeah. And he gave it to me, and I think I threw it like maybe 20 yards, and it hurt so bad.
Really?
Yeah, my shoulder's still jacked up. It hurt so bad, and I was like, I'm not. It was all dead duck. It's crappy throw, and I was like, I can't do it anymore, dude. He's like, are you serious?
That's the one thing I'm good at is football.
Yeah,
I can throw a football
like a mother.
because I played football a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do too much like in middle school is when I kind of like fell off, and I definitely didn't do high school because by then I was like, I haven't been playing for years.
Yeah.
Like, these dudes are like serious here. I'm like, I'm not trying to be serious. Like,
right.
I'm 5'5", like 5'6". Like, I'm not going anywhere.
Do you remember that scene in Blood In, Blood Out where it's like the opposing gang that's on top of the hill, where you remember they drop Crucito on the hydrant, right? And so like the gang comes and tries to come and retaliate, and then like they pop out. And like the guy's all like "Chinga tu madre" and stuff like that. And I don't know if you remember it. There's a guy in the background of the opposing gang who like takes a can and he throws it, and it's like the girliest story I've ever seen. He's like "Chinga tu madre." He's like this, and he like throws the can really gay. We can look at the clip. That's how I throw. that guy throws harder than me.
That's awesome.
That's funny, dude.
But dude,
all of that explanation just to say he throws shit.
I throw like a bitch, but it's good context because I can say
everything.
that. But
look it up.
But
you can watch it.
I tried to play football when I was young because my brother did.
Mm-hmm.
Rob played football in middle school and high school. He's really good at it. And my dad was really into football. He's a real like sportsman, tried to be in sports. And I joined football. I never liked sports. And I joined football to try to make my dad proud. He didn't make me, but I wanted to because I know it would make him happy, and I wanted my dad to be proud of me.
Right.
And I tried to do the city league in 5th grade. So I was 10. Yeah. And in the city, they go by your weight. They don't go by your age or anything. They go by how much you weigh.
Yeah.
I was a fat kid. So I was 10 years old.
So you were in the...
I was in the 7th grade football players. Yeah. Dude, they were jacked. They were jacked 12-year-olds. They had 6-packs. they weighed the same as me in muscle, and I was just this flabby kid.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hang with them, and I tried, and everyone was cool. My first tackling practice, they laid me the F out. Yeah. They lit me up like a Christmas tree on the 4th of July. And I quit that night.
You were the fat guy in 3 Ninjas.
Light
them up, boys.
I told my mom, I was all like, Mom, I don't want to play football no more. Can you tell Dad that I quit? And my dad wasn't like mad or disappointed. I think he was more of, it wasn't about football. I think it was more about the mentality of that. Don't quit.
Don't quit. Yeah.
Even if you're not good at it, it'll help you become stronger. It'll help you more.
Mentally.
Like, don't quit.
Yeah.
But I wanted to quit. I was a real soft kid.
Yeah.
And he let me quit, and he didn't give me any grief about it. But I think in hindsight, I think my dad was more disappointed in the idea of like, it's not about being good. It's just about not quitting.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe it's probably also like a relationship thing. Like now he's like feeling like, oh man, it was like, I thought football could have brought us together maybe.
Yeah.
Because I do thinking that with some things my kids are into now. I'm like, dude, y'all are like, but kids nowadays, like you say, kids nowadays are just different. Like they're growing up in this social media world and stuff. Like that's crazy. Plus my son's a teenager, so.
For real already?
Dude, going to Ray next year.
Oh my gosh, what the heck, dude?
Yeah,
Where did time go? That's insane.
That's the only reason I even know how much I'm aging, dude. My kids.
It's an hourglass.
I'm like, because every time somebody asks me how old I am, I'm like, 34. Yeah, I'm like, wow. I'm like, dude, what the heck? I was like, I never thought I would be like that. I have to remember. Why would I forget my own age? It's like, it's because it's not important to me anymore.
I got to think about it.
Yeah, got to do math.
Do you got the clip or what, dude? You're over there looking.
Keep it rolling, dog.
Chinga tu madre. Chinga tu madre, dude.
That's why there's 2 of us. You're not supposed to wait on me. You're kind of supposed to hold the weight. Jesus Christ, dog. Calm me out.
I started football in 5th grade too.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had to beg my dad to play.
Did you bitch out like I did?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I almost did. I begged my dad to play because my brother was talking to me. He's like, "Hey, why don't you play football?" Because I loved football. But I was good at baseball, right? I love baseball more than anything.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I do want to play football. He kind of got it in my head. He goes, go ask Dad to play football, And I went to ask my dad. And my dad was like, no, you're going to get hurt. This, that, and the other. And he knew I was good at baseball. So he's like, you're going to get hurt playing football. Then you're not.
That's what I was about to ask. I was going to say,
so
to preserve
I was
baseball.
like, no, I remember sitting at the dinner table. This is kind of embarrassing, but it's true. I was 10. I was in 5th grade, right? I think that's about 10. Yeah. I was 10.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was in 4th grade going to 5th grade. It was like the summer.
Okay.
Right? Because you're about to sign up.
Yeah.
So I was going to 5th grade. Anyway, so I was 10. I remember sitting at the dinner table asking him, and then he wouldn't let me, and then I started crying. I started bawling like a little bitch. I was crying and crying, and my dad, I think my brother was like, my older brother, he's 7 years older than me, so he was like, I don't know, 16, 17 at the time, and he's like telling my dad, just let him play, blah, blah, and then my dad's finally like, all right, fine. So we went and signed up, and then I remember our first practice, dude. I mean, it's Corpus Christi. For those people who don't live in South Texas, our summers are like 100 degrees.
And do pads on and everything.
Yeah, dude.
You're probably pushing another 5 to 10 degrees.
And I'm used to baseball starting in the spring.
And you're working out.
Know, yeah. And baseball, you start in the spring. You start in February.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. It's still cool.
South Texas,
it's still cool. It gets hot towards the end.
Yeah, I'm like,
but you're not wearing pads.
Yeah.
Right. And then anyway, so dude, I put that helmet on and I was just like, oh, I can't breathe. I'm already claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And then we're running.
Yeah.
We had an old school coach, dude. He's one of the coolest coaches, though. To this day, I thank that dude because he made me tough. We started running around that big old desert of a field we have out there in youth football.
Right off of McCardle?
Yeah, that's the one I played in 5th grade.
It's all rocks and holes, and you're like spraining your ankles. And
yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible, dude. Dust Bowl. We're running around that, and I start hyperventilating. I'd never hyperventilated in my life.
Wow.
And I think it was my own head. Like,
yeah.
I'm freaking out because I'm wearing all this stuff and it's really hot.
Yeah.
So you start breathing wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. You're freaking out. Oh my God. It's real hot. Are you hot? I'm hot. Yeah. Oh my God. It's really sweaty.
Dude, and give me a paper bag in front of the whole team. I'm all, yeah, dude. And then, I barely made it through that one and doing the push-ups and the sit-ups. And I was like, this is insane. I'm like in pads. This hurts. And then I didn't want to go back after that day. And then I thought about it and I was like, I got to go back. And it was, so the next day, I think wasn't as bad on the workout, but then we did a tackling drill, and I just got mowed over by these bigger kids.
Really?
Yeah, they were like 12-year-old, because it's like from 10 to 12.
So the same thing happened to you,
except
you didn't quit.
Right. Dude. We had 3 giant kids on our team, and they just like were lighting me up, dude. It was the worst ever. I felt terrible. Like I felt like a big pussy, dude. Like, it was horrible.
That's exactly how I felt.
At least y'all are fucking normal sized guys. Like, I've been fucking tiny my whole life, dude. Like, I've been the small guy the whole time. Like, and that's intimidating as fuck, bro.
Small, strong guys can light up a bigger guy easier.
Well, it's a lot easier for me to tackle because the whole point is to get the legs. Like, I don't even have to dive for most people. Even punch over slightly and I'm good.
Or even like getting under and like going upwards. So like kind of bring them off their feet a little bit. Like, you spear them, you Goldberg the fuck.
But one thing I did have on majority of people was speed. Like I was significantly faster than a lot of people, so that was my go-to right there. Just run away like a bitch. I didn't quit like a bitch. I ran away like a bitch.
You played Little League football too, but when did you play? Because I remember you played with John.
Yeah, so that was to be honest, John. You remember John? John went to the gym for a little bit. He was in Taekwondo. Yeah.
Little John.
His dad was our coach. So obviously his dad's never gonna let him quit. So it was like it was like a boost in my confidence to see like another small dude, because John has been the same size as me too. Like so to see another small dude playing, and I'm like, and he's good. I'm like,
no fear.
I'm like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, I can't quit, dude. I was like, this dude's here, and I'm like, so I started in the 3rd grade. So I was 8 years old when I started.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just barely past Pee Wee. So I played till I was in 7th grade, and I did 1 year at Baker, and then I didn't do 8th grade, and I stopped. But yeah, football was fun though. I had a lot of good memories with that. Football was great.
None for me.
My mom still has all my trophies.
None for me.
My mom still has all my trophies, dude.
Last place?
None for me.
Participation medals. Smallest guy on the team.
Smallest dude. He's like, he can fit in all the gym bags.
None.
There was actually one kid that was smaller than me.
John?
No. John was taller than me for the majority of our lives.
What?
Yeah.
And then you just shot up an inch past him in
John just stopped.
high school.
John stopped growing probably because his dad was making him lift weights from like 9 years old.
He's been buff
since a stocky dude as long as I've known him. Like, but yeah, dude, football was really fun. Dude, but I guess hilarious. It was because like I didn't do it so competitively. So when it started going towards like Baker and stuff like that, like these kids are playing to be competitive because it's maybe something they want to do or they consider doing.
More passionate.
Right.
Exactly. So for me, it was like, well, it's kind of over for me now because I'm not even that good, even though I played. Like,
you're not that into it.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean like just because I played for years doesn't mean I'm good at it. Like,
true.
Wow.
And that's because I tried again when I was in 7th grade that I played for the middle school. I played for Hamlin.
Yeah.
Or I tried out and you know, we were doing the try. It's the same thing. Because in the city league, we practiced at like 7 o'clock at night. It was nighttime. So it was in the heat. Yeah. It was literally, I wasn't athletic enough to do it.
Yeah.
And then in 7th grade when I did it, same thing happened to me. It was 3:30, hot as balls, full pads, exercising. I swear to God, first practice in all pads, working out, not even 5 minutes into it, my vision went white.
Oh,
to where I couldn't see.
And throwing up everywhere.
Foaming at the mouth.
It was the scariest thing because when you were a kid back in the day, no one told you about like drinking water all day.
Possibly dying.
Yeah, dude.
But drinking water all
kids,
day.
Yeah, kids are like, oh, you be careful.
As a kid, you woke up dehydrated every day, and you ran on fumes.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that's what it was like being a kid back in the the early 2000s, 90s, and so. I didn't have an ounce of water in my body. It was all grape soda and root beer. Yeah. So like my first practice, 5 minutes into it, my body literally dried out like dehydrated plantains.
Stay hydrated, baby.
My vision went white. I went to the coach. Like seriously, I felt so lightheaded. I was like, I think I'm gonna die. I went to the coach and I was like, Coach, I can't see. I was like, my vision's white, Coach. I was like, I don't feel good. I can't see. He was cool as fuck. He was like, wow. I understand, son. Sit down, drink some water, sit down. After that practice, I was like, dude, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm not smart enough to to know the science of being an athlete. I can't throw myself into being an athlete without doing something to warm up to it. Like if I'm a kid that doesn't exercise, to put him in full pads in the middle of the day and exercise like an athlete is almost like it's unquestionable. Like there's not a workup period to becoming a football player. It's like you start training like a football player right when you join the team. I'm not even an active kid.
It's like you went to rehab for meth or something. They took it away from you. It's like just do that to me, dude.
Give me some meth. I'll probably play better. I can probably last longer.
Dude, that's methed up.
But I quit. And like I never and after that I was like, I'm not an athlete. Sports are not my thing. I never even thought about sports ever again. I didn't play it recreationally. I didn't play it in school. Sports was just out of a question of like, I don't play sports. I'm not a sports guy. I'm a SpongeBob guy. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's crazy that you were fortunate enough to have like a nice coach like that. I felt like coaches all back in the day were just like,
oh, dude,
just walk it off, son, slap you in the ass, and let you keep fucking working.
No, he took one look at me. He's like, nah, this kid's a. Sit down.
We don't want you on the team anyway.
Yeah. We don't have a
take a seat on the bench. Make sure the towels are warm.
Yeah.
The pussy position is filled by my wife. Sit down, son.
You saved me the time of cutting your ass.
Yeah. Now I don't have to listen to your dad cry.
Sit down, joke, dude. Gosh, dang.
Dude, I feel like, dude, that's crazy though. Talking about that because now I go to I drop off my daughter and my son, and dude, like. Before coaches were 80-year-old dudes who were teaching these kids in elementary that kickball's fun, now you have like 23-year-old hot girls like as coaches and stuff. I'm like, bro, what the heck happened? Like
they're all, dude.
Yeah, I was like, this is why there's so many cases now. Yeah, we don't want to waste too much content on.
Oh, right.
Like, hour-long episodes
on my mom.
So, Randy's mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry. We're going to have to cut you a little bit.
That bathwater is on its way.
I know exactly what shirt I'm sending to.
Which one? Is it the crusty one?
I can't tell you.
Crispy shirts here. But so you played baseball, and then when you stopped, did you immediately been like, well, I got to do something else?
So, So I started baseball, I think, when I was like 5. And then when I got hurt. So I wanted to do martial arts when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because I grew up watching Bruce Lee, right?
Hell yeah.
Like everyone else.
R.I.P.
Yes. So I grew up watching Bruce Lee and I'd watch him all the time. We had these VHS tapes that we recorded like his movies on TV or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would pop them in and watch them. And one day I asked my dad, I don't remember how old I was. I was probably like in 3rd grade or something around there. I asked my dad, I said, hey, I want to do martial arts. He told me the same thing he said about football, right?
You're going to get hurt.
Yeah. He goes, no, you're going to get hurt, and then you can't play baseball. Now, I was young enough at the time to just agree with him because in my mind, it was just logical.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like that. Like, no problem. Like, he said that, and I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Because baseball was that important to me that I was I don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
And he was probably right. I mean, there's always a chance. I think he knew how much I loved it, and I think he loved that I loved it and that I was good at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't think it was about him. I just think he was protecting me as far as like, I know how much you love it.
Yeah.
And I know how
exactly.
good you are at it.
Exactly.
So let's not go get hurt doing something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because you want to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I didn't do it. And then I begged him to play football when I was about 10. And then I played football until my sophomore year. My sophomore year is my last year playing football. And I quit because my buddy broke his arm, and it kind of freaked me out. I was like, dude, what if that happens to me? And then I can't play baseball.
Shit. Yeah.
So the very next year, I didn't go play football. And my coaches were like, where were you? I was like, I'm not playing this year. So anyway, so I had to tell them I'm not playing anymore. I'm done. And then I hurt my arm my junior year playing baseball. And then when the doctor told me, you're never going to throw that hard. What happened was I'm already pigeonholed into being a pitcher, right? Because I played every position growing up except catcher. Mm-hmm. And I think like maybe center field. I played every position. I mainly played third base or I pitched, mainly.
Okay.
So when I got to high school, I said, I'm not pitching anymore. I just want to play third base.
Right.
Long story short, I failed my freshman year. I failed history. Couldn't play baseball. So I didn't get to play baseball my freshman year. Well, a guy that I went to high school with, he did play, and then he ended up starting third base, I think, his freshman year. Damn. So that was done for me, right?
The position you wanted was filled.
It's filled. Yeah. And it was filled with the backup, too. That was really good as well. I knew him, too.
Why third base and not second?
I was too big.
Wait, so that matters?
Second base, you got to be fast. In my opinion.
I would imagine there's a lot of action going through center.
I was never a fast runner. I was never a fast runner. I
never even thought about that. I don't know shit about sports.
I was like, in 5th grade, I was like 5'9".
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then I remember in 6th grade, I was like 5'10". And by
you just look like Robin Williams from Jack. They're all like, a 10-year-old doesn't shave.
Dude, I can show you my pictures when I was in Little League, which is 10, 11, 12-year-old. And me and my buddy Donnie, we were the same height, same size, and we're as big as all the coaches.
Holy shit.
Like we're in the group picture.
So all of them were midgets.
We're like as big as a coach is standing in the group picture, dude. We're like big kids, but I was big, but I wasn't
next
fast,
to a whole bunch of me's.
Oh, okay.
Third base is perfect.
Because it's probably real awkward to get that big that young.
It's very,
because you haven't like grown it. Like you grew, but like your body hasn't had to develop like the reflexes to.
Yeah.
I guess I'll never know.
It's weird. But anyway, so then he told me that, and I was like, well, I'm going to go do martial arts. And that's how I got into martial arts, is when he said, you're never going to throw as hard. I was already pigeonholed in being a pitcher, right? I already lost the possibility of playing other positions.
Right.
And hitting I was a very good hitter, but that was already out because I agreed to be a pitcher.
Yeah.
And I did it for the team. They approached me. They're like, hey, Fred, we don't have enough pitchers.
Right.
We know you pitched. Will you pitch? And I was like, sure, because I'm a team player. I was like, okay. Even though I knew that I wasn't going to hit anymore.
Right.
Like I thought about it for like a second, and I was like, okay. And I remember they took me right away. They're like, all right, let's go. We're gonna go start. Leave that. This is practice now.
Okay.
So I went over there anyway. So whenever I found that out, it was like, I'm gonna go do martial arts. And I was 17. I was old enough to drive. I had a car. I drove over to Weapons at Hand here in Corpus Christi, and they did kung fu.
Oh, so that was here in Corpus.
So
you were in Corpus when all this happened.
Whenever he kind of first started, yeah. So
he's been around that long.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he was in a little spot. It was like a hallway. It was so narrow. It was narrow and really long. His studio. And it was right next to. You guys know when you drive down. What is that? Staples. Yeah, you drive down Staples like you're going to downtown.
Yeah,
just keep driving. And then on the left there was a strip joint there. It's gone now. After COVID, it closed. But I think it was anyway. back then I think it was called Party Doll. He's right in the shopping center right next to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
And I remember that because there would always be drunk dudes walking by, like talking crap and stuff to us.
I can kick your ass, kid.
Cliche, dude.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was crazy. So anyway, that's where I went and signed up.
And it was Kung Fu at the time?
It was Kung Fu. He's a professional kickboxer.
Yeah.
But I was a Bruce Lee fan, right? So I was like, of course I want to do Kung Fu.
So it's Chinese martial arts.
Right, it's Chinese martial arts, Kung Fu. So I was like, I'm going to go do Kung Fu.
And was it like legitimate, like teaching you?
Oh, he's legit. Yeah, he's legit.
Like,
Kung Fu.
what is it called? Forms?
Yes, absolutely.
It's not katas because that's Japanese. That's karate.
Right, correct. Yeah. So yeah, we did that. And I think I did that for about 6 or 7 months. I mean, this was a long time ago, guys. This is 94, 93, 94. And then he moved to a new location. Mm-hmm. And when he moved to a new location, he threw up an indoor little ring, like a floor ring. And he had a separate area in the back with like bags and everything. It was like a bigger, cooler location. And that's, I think, at least for me, maybe he was already offering it and I didn't know. But that's whenever I saw like, oh, he offers kickboxing, right? And he was a professional kickboxer. Like,
and did you know about kickboxing then? Yeah.
So I grew up with my grandfather. I'd always go hang out at my grandparents' house, and my grandfather watched boxing. And I joke around about this all the time, right? He's an old. His parents were from Spain.
Yeah.
And he was born here. Uh-huh. But you know, me growing up, I didn't even know he was from Spain. I thought he was an old Mexican.
Yeah.
You know, later on, my mom was like, nah, his dad and his parents moved from Spain.
Yeah.
And he was born here because he didn't speak any English. I just thought he was an old Mexican dude. He was real dark, but he mowed lawns for a living. That's what he did his whole life, pretty much. So he was real dark from being outside all the time.
So
but I'd be chilling
screaming
out.
Mexican.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So
he's a landscaper. He only says the N-word.
Oh my God. Yeah. So I would hang out with him in his room, and I joke around about this. He would somehow find fights on television. Like, this was before there was a lot of channels.
Yeah.
And I was like, how is this guy always watching boxing or some sort of fighting? Like, he'd find it on the Spanish channel, on ABC, on NBC, on something, dude. I'd be in his room, and I'm like, he's watching boxing again?
Yeah.
It's like they showed boxing all the time back then, I guess. Telemundo, whatever the hell. They were showing boxing.
Yeah.
So I grew up with that. And then one time I was in his room. I was probably like 8 or 9. I remember. I was in his room and he was watching kickboxing on ESPN. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what?
Was that old
school? That was my first time ever seeing
with
that.
The pants?
Yes.
Where they would only kick to the body, right?
Yeah.
I was watching it and whenever I walked in, they were throwing punches, but they were wearing pants. And I was thinking like, why are they wearing pants?
It's like, man, those
boxing? What kind of shit is it? Yeah, dude. So I was like,
they're wearing pants and booties.
Right. And then they started throwing kicks and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It didn't make me feel like, oh, that's badass, I want to do that, right? Because my mind was one track. It was baseball. I really didn't give a crap about anything else. But I do remember that. I remember exactly where I was sitting, where the TV was, where he was. Like, I can picture the whole, to this day, man. And I don't have good memory, but I can picture that whole moment.
Yeah.
And I was watching kickboxing, and I thought apparently it was cool enough for me to remember that moment.
It's like formative.
First time ever seeing kickboxing.
Like
I was
first
like, this
love.
is cool. Yeah, it was really cool. Anyway, so I kind of knew about it before. Mm-hmm. And then when I was getting older, I started watching it more and more. You know, I'd see it on ESPN, Strikeforce.
Yeah.
Back then, Strikeforce wasn't the MMA Strikeforce that everybody thinks of now.
Yeah, exactly.
Strikeforce started as kickboxing and Muay Thai.
Oh, really?
And then it changed into MMA.
Yeah.
Scott Coker would run. He was the owner of Strikeforce.
Yeah.
He would run kickboxing Muay Thai fights.
That's pretty fucking cool.
And that was on ESPN too. So it was called Strikeforce. So whenever Stacy at Weapons at Hand, he started offering kickboxing, I jumped into that.
Yeah.
So I was in both. I did kung fu and kickboxing. So I was there like all night.
Right.
I'd get there for the kung fu class, and then afterwards we'd do kickboxing. I believe I remember the anyway, and that's how I got into kickboxing. And it was more of an American style.
Okay.
You know, it's more
kind of karate based.
Yeah. Right. It was more of, and I'm not saying that's a bad style, but that's what I knew.
Yeah.
And then when I started going, say maybe my senior year, and then when I started going to college, I started watching Strikeforce more and more, and I started seeing other styles. Like I started seeing, more Muay Thai stuff, and then more European style. It kind of, they weren't they were fighting in Muay Thai, but they were not Thais. So they were European style.
Yeah. Nice. So they had their own kind of flair to it.
Right, right. Yeah. And that's a Eurasian. That's kind of like a Dutch kickboxing or
the people from Holland,
French and Holland, French and stuff like that are fighting. Yeah, and I saw that, and that's kind of what I quit doing kung fu. Yeah. And I just only went for the
kickboxing.
Mm-hmm. Nice. But what was really cool about the kung fu back then is that Stacy taught us a whole bunch of grappling. So, in the early 90s, we were doing mixed martial arts before anybody was doing mixed martial arts.
Really?
In Corpus.
Oh, okay.
That's because he had a ring, and he probably still has videos. We used to record too. My buddy might have the videos. I don't know, but he had a ring, and we would do what he called Chinese boxing, and it was MMA. We didn't call it MMA. We just called it Chinese boxing. Yeah. And we would put on our gloves, and he had those Bruce Lee gloves. Those they're called Kempo gloves.
Yeah.
With the fingers, so you can grab.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And we'd beat the shit out of each other and take down and arm bars and ground and pound and everything.
Because that's technically what Bruce Lee was doing back in the day anyway. Right. In Enter the Dragon, he was doing grappling. Right. He was doing judo throws, and he was doing, at the time, I guess it was Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Right, yeah, probably. But yeah, we did all that. And UFC did exist at the time, right? But he never called it MMA. I mean, it already existed. UFC had already come out, in 92 or 93?
But that was like the hardcore days where it was like style versus style, right?
Exactly.
Correct. And that's why he called it Chinese boxing. He's like, this is Chinese boxing for us. Yeah. For Kung Fu guys, he goes, this is Chinese boxing. Because I'd asked him, I said, what are we doing? He's like, well, we're going to spar. He's like, we're doing Chinese boxing. And I was like, well, what's that? And he goes, it's basically fighting and ground. You fight everywhere. And we're like, okay.
That's
so
pretty
we were learning. Cool. The only thing that I don't remember learning was actual takedowns. We learned like trips and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Right, like trips and throws and stuff. Yeah, we didn't know any like double legs and single legs. I don't remember. He could have taught that. I don't remember. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, we used to record it. I mean, this was cool, man. Those videos have got to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just beat
man.
the shit out of each other. It was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't go like super hard. He and his best friend, his assistant instructor, they would beat the shit out of each other.
And you would just that was like a fun thing to see like the coaches go at it.
And you got to understand, we were 17. Me and my best friend, I got him to start training with us. We were 17 years old watching these grown men
go at it
into each other.
But they knew what they were doing too. Correct. So it's like, this is badass.
Correct. It's like they knew what they were doing. They weren't going to like beat each other to a pulp, but dude, they would hit each other pretty hard,
level of technique and level of strength is just much higher.
Right.
Like,
we'd watch that and be like, oh shit.
Dude, that's how I used to feel at the gym all the time, dude. Seeing Patrick and Chris and Dustin,
or even when you would do like, I remember at one time when you were training for a fight, so you would spar with Dustin, or even the times where you would go in and just round robin with everybody.
Oh right.
Just so like it was almost kind of like a celebration, like, hey, I'm gonna spar with y'all.
Right.
Just for the day, and it was interesting to see because what the fuck is that?
Somebody's breaking into somebody's vehicle out there, broad daylight.
Dude,
that's what I thought.
But
but what was cool is that it's because you wouldn't do the thing where you would go all out. It was kind of cool to see you do like, this is what Freddy means by I can do minimum energy, but 100% technique. How to your movement, your timing, and then your technique. And it was like, dude, there's like, even when you would show stuff and you'd be like, Randy, let me use you. I'd be like, fuck, dude.
I was
like, my leg's going to hurt.
I hated getting pigs.
I'm about to start the drill, Fred, and my leg's going to hurt. And you'd be like this. And you'd be like, sometimes you'd go like, you don't want to do this. And you would do it like shitty. And I'd be like, ow. And you'd be like, what? Wiener? Like, I didn't do it hard. I was like, dude, that hurt.
Specifically, one time we were doing low kicks with a combination one time. And you were like, here, let me show you. Because I was I can't even remember who I was partnered up with. And you were like, here, let me show you. You were teaching him. And then you kicked me, and I kind of dove a little bit. And he was like, "Oh, I thought you were ready." And I didn't want to say it, but at the time, I was like, "I was ready." Like,
I was ready. I was actually bracing pretty hard.
I was flexing and everything,
dude.
But I get that to where seeing people who know what they're doing is, especially when you learn enough to know what's going on. Yeah. You're like, this is like. This is even people who don't know what's going on. They can be like, no, there's something going on. I understand. It looks cool. But even when you do know enough, you're like, you can show it. That's why people who know about sports could probably appreciate watching professionals play better.
Exactly.
But fighting is just another thing because it's a
beautiful science.
It's a crazy thing to see how people. It's like you don't get it. It's his body of like timing, technique, energy, utilization energy, like when, how much, where to go, all that.
Precision, everything.
So when you see like a really like a fighter, like someone like Floyd Mayweather. Anderson Silva, like the top titans, like you can talk shit on them all you want. You may not like them as a person. You may not like their style, but the fact remains that that guy is really good at what he can do. And trust me, you can't do that. And there's a reason why he's a winner. There's a reason why, even if you don't like it, 100%. He figured out some way to win and it works.
Yep.
And I mean, but so you trained at Weapons at Hand. So how long until you moved to Seattle?
So I think I trained at Weapons in Hand from 94 till I moved to San Antonio.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
97.
By yourself?
Yeah. So I man, dude, I got to really think about my life.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of crazy.
It's crazy to think that was like, almost 30 years ago.
I've never had a chance because I know you've always talked to us in passing about like some things you've done. Mm-hmm. So that's why it was cool. I was like, Fred's coming on, and there's like a bunch of shit I've always wanted to ask him, but he's always like busy. Like he's getting ready for a class or he's shutting down the gym.
Right.
And we didn't get a chance to hang out.
I don't think that my stories are amazing, right? But I think that my life, the things that I've gotten to do and the people I've gotten to meet are pretty dang cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Definitely. I don't think that they're story worthy as far as like, oh man, this dude's had a really cool life. I don't think that, but I think it's kind of cool to tell because I never would have thought that any of it would happen to me.
Yeah.
Coming from I was born and raised here in Corpus Christi.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
And
that's crazy.
I just never thought that any of what happened to me. And it was simply because I stepped out of the box and I decided to do something that was very scary, which was move very far away from my parents and my life. And it opened up so many doors, but other things happened too. But so in 97, I moved to San Antonio to go to school. And while I was there, I joined a martial arts gym. He taught Vale Tudo, the guy, right? And I don't remember his whole name. And
Is that from Brazil?
I don't want to like
Vale Tudo
badmouth him, right? But he was a weird dude. Vale Tudo, yeah, Vale Tudo is basically MMA.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But,
it has nothing to do with parking cars, right?
No.
Valet to go.
No, it's like I guess it's like anything goes or whatever. I don't remember, but he taught that. He was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu based, right?
Yeah.
So I joined that gym, and I immediately was like, this dude's psycho. Like immediately, dude. I was like, this guy is
psycho.
Crazy.
How?
Like I would watch him beat up his students,
Oh, and that kind of guy.
Baby.